Princess Kira adjusted her ceremonial robes as she gazed out the transport window at the swirling nebula beyond. The colors danced like liquid fire against the darkness of space, beautiful yet somehow unsettling. She had traveled this route between the outer colonies and the capital world dozens of times. But today felt different, Your Highness. "We will reach the Meridian Station in 2 hours," announced Captain Vex from the pilot seat. His blue-scaled skin gleamed under the cabin lights as he checked the navigation displays. "The trade negotiations there should conclude your diplomatic mission successfully." Kira nodded but continued watching the stars. As the youngest daughter of Emperor Valdris, she often handled these routine diplomatic tasks. The Valdoran Empire controlled this sector of space, and their advanced technology made them the dominant force among the allied species. Their energy shields and plasma weapons were unmatched. Their ships faster than any others in known space. "Princess?" "Incoming transmission from the escort squadron," called Lieutenant Zara from the communication station. "They report all clear on the perimeter." 6 Valdoran warships surrounded their diplomatic vessel, each one armed with enough firepower to level a small moon. The trade route they traveled had been secure for over 50 years. No pirate force would dare attack an Imperial convoy in this well-protected space. Kira finally turned away from the window.
"Captain Vex, how many species have formal treaties with our empire now?"
47 confirmed alliances, Your Highness," Vex replied with pride. "The Zalari bring us their crystal technology. The Thumans provide their agricultural expertise, and the Corvin offer their mathematical knowledge. Together, we maintain peace across 12 star systems. And what of the primitive species? The ones still developing?" Vex's expression showed mild amusement. "You mean creatures like the humans? They barely qualify as spacefaring, Princess. Their technology remains centuries behind ours. They use chemical rockets and primitive electronics. Most galactic councils do not even acknowledge them as a true civilization yet." Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red warning lights flashed as the vessel shuddered violently. Through the windows, Kira saw strange purple energy waves washing over their escort ships. "What is happening?" Kira demanded, gripping her seat as another shockwave hit them. "Unknown energy signature detected," Zara called out, her fingers dancing over the control panels. "It appears to be some kind of dampening field." "Our weapon systems are going offline," Captain Vex cursed in his native language. "Skreth raiders." "But how did they get dampening technology?" "Through the communication system." Desperate voices crackled from the escort ships. "Imperial 6 to command, our plasma cannons are dead. Shields at 15% and falling. Imperial 2, we have multiple hull breaches. Engines are failing." The main view screen showed the truth of their situation. Sleek black ships emerged from the nebula like predatory fish, their hulls crackling with the same purple energy that had disabled the Valdoran fleet. The Skreth were known as ruthless pirates, but they had never possessed technology advanced enough to challenge Imperial forces. "They have been planning this," Vex said grimly. "The dampening field neutralizes our energy-based weapons and shields. Our ships are sitting targets." More explosions rocked their vessel. On the screen, Kira watched in horror as one of their escort ships broke apart under concentrated fire. The crew pods ejected, but Skreth boarding craft were already moving to capture them. "Princess, we must get you to the escape pods," Lieutenant Zara urged. "No," Vex said sharply. "The Skreth will capture any pods we launch. They want her alive for ransom. A Valdoran princess would destabilize the entire empire if held hostage." Another massive impact sent everyone sprawling. Sparks flew from damaged control panels as the lights flickered. Through the chaos, Kira heard the terrible sound of their hull being breached. "Emergency landing protocol activated," the ship's computer announced in its calm voice. "Nearest planetary body detected. Preparing for crash landing on Sigma 7 moon." The next few minutes passed in a blur of spinning stars and screaming metal. Kira felt her stomach drop as their ship plunged toward the rocky surface of a barren moon. The crash threw her against the bulkhead despite her safety restraints. Everything went dark. When consciousness returned, Kira found herself trapped in the twisted wreckage. Pain shot through her left arm and she could taste blood. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the broken ship. She could hear voices outside, harsh, guttural Skreth speech. "Captain Vex?" she called softly. A groan answered her from across the cabin. "Still alive, Princess, but badly injured. Zara is unconscious. The Skreth are searching the wreckage," Kira whispered. "If they find me..." "Crawl toward the rear cargo hold," Vex instructed weakly. There is an emergency exit. The rocky terrain outside might provide cover. Ignoring the pain in her arm, Kira squeezed through the twisted metal toward the back of the ship. Behind her, she heard the main hatch being torn open and Skreth voices growing louder. Her heart pounded as she reached the cargo hold and activated the emergency release. The hatch opened with a soft hiss, revealing the desolate landscape of Sigma-7. Jagged rocks and deep crevices stretched in every direction under a pale orange sky. Kira slipped outside and began moving carefully between the stone formations, trying to put distance between herself and her crashed ship. The sound of Skreth search teams echoed across the landscape. Their harsh voices called to each other as they spread out from the wreckage. Kira pressed herself against a tall boulder, trying to control her breathing. She was alone, injured, and trapped on a hostile moon with no way to call for help. The dampening field still pulsed in the distance, preventing any hope of rescue, as footsteps approached her hiding place. Princess Kira closed her eyes and prepared for capture. Then she heard something impossible, the sharp crack of kinetic weapons and a Skreth scream of surprise. Princess. Kira pressed her back against the cold stone, her heart racing as Skreth footsteps grew closer. The alien raiders moved methodically through the rocky terrain, their energy scanners sweeping for life signs. She could hear their guttural voices communicating as they searched every crevice and shadow. Another sharp crack echoed across the moon's surface, followed by a heavy thud. One of the Skreth voices cut off abruptly. The remaining raiders began shouting in alarm, their search pattern suddenly disrupted. Contact lost with Unit 7, growled a Skreth commander nearby. Unknown hostile presence confirmed. Kira carefully peered around her boulder. 3 Skreth raiders stood about 50 meters away, their black armor gleaming under the orange sky. They held advanced energy weapons and moved with military precision. Yet something had taken out their companion without triggering any of their detection systems. A small object flew through the air and landed near the Skreth squad. Before they could react, it exploded in a burst of bright light and smoke. The raiders stumbled blindly, their enhanced vision temporarily overloaded by the primitive flashbang device. From the smoke emerged a figure moving with fluid grace. Dressed in simple gray clothing and carrying what appeared to be an ancient projectile weapon, the mysterious rescuer moved between the confused Skreth like a shadow. 3 quick shots rang out and all 3 raiders collapsed. Kira stared in amazement. Skreth body armor could deflect most energy weapons, yet these primitive kinetic rounds seemed to punch right through their defenses. The rescuer quickly gathered the fallen enemy's equipment, studying their energy scanners with obvious interest. More Skreth voices echoed from the crashed ship area. The rescuer looked up, seeming to count the different voice patterns, then began moving toward the wreckage with purposeful strides. Kira found herself following at a distance, drawn by curiosity and hope. The mysterious figure reached a high ridge overlooking the crash site. Below, 8 Skreth raiders searched through the broken vessel while their commander coordinated from a safe distance. Their shuttle sat nearby, its engine still warm from landing. Instead of engaging directly, the rescuer began setting up what looked like a series of crude explosive devices around the perimeter. Each device appeared to be constructed from salvaged materials, pieces of the crashed ship's hull, components from Skreth equipment, and simple chemical compounds. Yet they were positioned with mathematical precision. Kira watched in fascination as the figure used a piece of reflective metal to direct sunlight toward the Skreth shuttle's fuel intake. Within minutes, smoke began rising from the ship's engine compartment. The raiders noticed too late as their only means of escape erupted in flames. Shuttle compromised. The Skreth commander barked into his communicator. Request immediate extraction. The rescuer had anticipated this. A small jamming device, apparently constructed from wreckage components, began broadcasting interference on the same frequency. The commander's calls for help turned into static. Now the real tactical display began. The Skreth, realizing they were trapped, formed a defensive circle around their commander. Their energy weapons could still function despite the earlier dampening field, and they had superior numbers. By all logic, they should have easily overwhelmed a single opponent with primitive weapons. Yet logic seemed to have no place in this battle. The rescuer used the moon's low gravity to move in ways the Skreth could not predict. Jumping between rock formations that should have been impossible to reach, the figure stayed constantly in motion. Each shot fired was precisely calculated, not just to hit targets, but to ricochet off stone surfaces and strike from unexpected angles. When the Skreth tried to use their energy weapon's superior range, they found their shots blocked by carefully positioned reflective surfaces. Their own weapon's energy bounced back at them, forcing them to seek cover behind the very rocks their opponent was using for mobility. One by one, the explosive devices began detonating in sequence. Not randomly, but in a pattern that herded the remaining Skreth toward a specific location, a narrow canyon where their numbers would mean nothing. Impossible, Kira whispered. No single fighter could coordinate this level of tactical precision, yet she was watching it happen. The rescuer moved like someone who understood not just combat, but the psychology of their enemies. Every Skreth reaction was anticipated, every movement predicted and countered. The commander, realizing his situation was hopeless, made a desperate gamble. He activated his personal shield generator and charged directly toward where he thought the rescuer was hiding. His remaining 3 soldiers provided covering fire, their energy beams turning nearby rocks into molten slag. The mysterious figure simply was not where the Skreth expected. Instead, they had already moved to another position and dropped a simple rope snare across the commander's path. Moving at full speed in the low gravity, the commander tripped and went sailing through the air to crash heavily against a stone wall. 3 more careful shots ended the battle. Kira emerged from her hiding place as silence fell across the moon's surface. The rescuer was already moving between the fallen enemies, collecting useful equipment and checking for survivors. When the figure approached Captain Vex's unconscious form near the wreckage, Kira called out, "Wait, he is my friend." The rescuer turned toward her voice but kept their helmet on. "You are injured," came a voice through the helmet's speaker system. "Let me help." "You saved us," Kira said, approaching carefully. "My name is Kira. I am a princess of the Valderan Empire. How can I possibly repay such a debt?" "No debt needed," the figure replied, kneeling beside Captain Vex to check his injuries. "Just happened to be in the area when this started." Kira studied her mysterious savior with growing amazement. Everything about this rescue defied her understanding of warfare and technology. This person had just accomplished something that an entire Imperial squadron could not manage, using equipment that most galactic civilizations would consider obsolete museum pieces. "Who are you?" she asked. The figure paused in treating Vex's wounds and looked up at her through the helmet's visor. "That's a complicated question, Princess. Maybe we should focus on getting you all medical attention first." Princess Kira watched as the mysterious rescuer carefully examined Captain Vex's injuries. The captain was breathing but remained unconscious, blood trickling from a head wound. Lieutenant Zara lay nearby, also unconscious but with a steady pulse. "They will live," the rescuer said, pulling medical supplies from a small pack. "But we need to move them to shelter soon. This moon gets very cold when the sun sets." Kira studied the figure more closely. The rescuer moved with practiced efficiency, hands steady despite having just fought an impossible battle. The gray clothing looked simple but functional, designed for movement rather than protection. Most puzzling were the weapons, kinetic firearms that belonged in a museum, yet had proven devastatingly effective against advanced Skreth armor. "I have never seen fighting techniques like yours," Kira said. "Your equipment appears primitive, yet you defeated 8 trained Skreth raiders single-handedly. What military academy taught you such tactics?" The rescuer paused while bandaging Vex's head wound. "No academy, just experience and necessity. But the precision, the timing, the way you use their own technology against them, this requires years of advanced tactical training. Which species do you serve? The Corvin War Colleges? The Thuman Strategic Institutes?" A soft laugh came from behind the helmet. "Princess, I think you might be overthinking this. Sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones." Kira felt frustration building. Nothing about this was simple. You coordinated a multi-stage assault using improvised explosives, psychological warfare, environmental manipulation, and predictive combat modeling. The tactical complexity was extraordinary. "Really, it was not that complicated," the figure insisted, checking Zara's pulse. "I just used what was available and tried to think ahead a little." "Think ahead a little?" Kira's voice rose. "You anticipated every Skreth movement perfectly. You turned their superior numbers into a disadvantage. You converted their own equipment into weapons against them. This level of strategic thinking requires centuries of evolutionary development and technological advancement. The rescuer stood up, gathering the medical supplies. Princess, I appreciate the compliments, but you are giving me too much credit. Where I come from, this kind of problem-solving is pretty normal. Where you come from? Kira stepped closer. What world produces such tactical excellence? Your people must rank among the galaxy's greatest military powers. Another laugh, this one sounding almost embarrassed. Greatest military powers? I really do not think so. Then show me, Kira demanded. Remove your helmet. Let me see what species creates such remarkable warriors. The figure hesitated, hands moving to the helmet's release mechanism. Princess, this might be surprising for you. Nothing could surprise me more than what I have already witnessed, Kira declared confidently. The helmet disengaged with a soft click. As it lifted away, Kira prepared to see some unknown alien species. Perhaps a previously undiscovered race with natural tactical abilities, or a genetically enhanced super soldier from a secret military program. Instead, she found herself staring at a completely ordinary face, smooth skin with a slightly olive tone, brown hair, dark eyes, and features that were pleasant but unremarkable. The face looked young, maybe 30 standard years, with no visible genetic modifications or cybernetic enhancements. Most shocking of all, she recognized the species immediately. You are human, she whispered, her voice barely audible. The man, clearly male by his features, nodded casually. Yes, my name is Tom. Nice to meet you properly, Princess. Kira's mind reeled. Everything she had been taught about humans rushed through her thoughts. They were primitive creatures who had barely discovered space travel. Their technology remained centuries behind galactic standards. They used chemical rockets, basic electronics, and crude manufacturing techniques. Most species considered them little more than clever animals who had accidentally achieved spaceflight. Yet this human had just accomplished something that would challenge the finest military minds in the Valdoran Empire. This is impossible, she said, stepping backward. Humans are primitive. Your people have not even developed faster-than-light travel independently. You lack advanced weapons, sophisticated computers, or energy manipulation technology. Tom shrugged. That is all true. We do lag behind most species technologically. Then how? Kira gestured at the battlefield around them. How did you defeat advanced warriors using Stone Age equipment? I would not call it Stone Age, Tom said mildly. These firearms are quite reliable, and the explosives worked exactly as designed. But Skreth armor can deflect most energy weapons. Their shields protect against advanced ordnance. Their tactical training comes from centuries of warfare across multiple star systems. Sure, Tom agreed, but their armor was not designed to stop kinetic projectiles, and their shields do not work well against physical impacts. As for tactical training, sometimes being too rigid in your thinking becomes a weakness. Kira stared at him in amazement. You speak as if this were obvious. Well, it kind of was. Their equipment was optimized for fighting other high-tech opponents. When faced with simpler weapons and unpredictable tactics, they could not adapt quickly enough. But the coordination, the timing, the strategic planning— Princess, Tom interrupted gently. Where I come from, we call that improvisation. Humans get a lot of practice at making do with whatever we have available. Kira felt her understanding of the galaxy shifting fundamentally. Your entire species possesses these abilities. To varying degrees, sure. We grow up solving problems with limited resources. Makes you creative. She looked around at the defeated Skreth, the improvised weapons, the tactical masterpiece that had unfolded before her eyes. Everything her civilization believed about humans was wrong. They were not primitive, and they were something else entirely. Tom, she said slowly, I think my people need to learn about yours. He smiled, and she realized that behind that ordinary human face was a mind that worked in ways her advanced civilization could barely comprehend. The galaxy was about to change. Princess Kira watched Tom work with fascination as he tended to her injured arm. His movements were efficient and gentle, using medical supplies that looked basic compared to Valdoran healing technology. Yet her pain decreased quickly under his care. How did you come to be on this moon? She asked, still trying to process the reality that a human had rescued her. Tom secured the bandage around her arm. My team was conducting geological surveys in this sector. We detected the energy signatures from the battle and came to investigate. Your team? Kira looked around the empty landscape. Where are they? Safe, about 10 kilometers north of here. When we saw what was happening, I volunteered to scout ahead while they prepared emergency medical equipment. Tom helped her to her feet. Speaking of which, we should contact them soon. Your friends need proper medical attention. Kira gestured toward the wreckage. Our communication systems were destroyed in the crash and the Screth dampening field is still active. Tom smiled and pulled a small device from his pack. It looked like a collection of salvaged parts connected with simple wire. I might have a solution for that. What is it? Emergency radio built from components I found in the wreckage. The dampening field blocks sophisticated energy systems, but it was not designed to stop basic radio frequencies. Kira examined the device with amazement. You constructed this from debris? Mostly from your ship's navigation system and some Screth equipment. The hardest part was finding a power source, but their energy cells work fine for simple electronics. Tom activated the device and static filled the air. He made several adjustments, then spoke into a crude microphone. Base camp, this is Tom. Do you copy? A voice crackled through the static. Tom, we have been worried. What is your status? 3 survivors rescued. 2 need medical attention. Can you bring the medical kit to coordinates I am sending now? Confirmed. Dr. Lisa is already preparing supplies. We will be there in 30 minutes. Tom switched off the radio and looked at Kira. Help is coming. In 30 minutes? Kira was impressed. How will they travel 10 kilometers so quickly on foot? Who said anything about walking? Tom grinned. We brought a rover, but ground vehicles cannot function under the dampening field. The energy disruption affects all powered systems. True, if you rely on energy-based propulsion. Our rover uses an internal combustion engine burning chemical fuel. Old technology, but reliable. Kira stared at him. You intentionally chose primitive technology? We learned early that simple systems work better in unknown environments. Energy fields, radiation, electromagnetic interference, they can all disable advanced technology. Basic mechanical systems keep working no matter what. As they waited for his team, Tom continued working on their situation. He rigged a simple shelter using pieces of the crashed ship and reflective materials from Screth equipment. The structure looked crude but provided excellent protection from the moon's harsh environment. Tom, may I ask you something personal? Kira said as he secured the shelter. Sure. When you saw our ship being attacked, why did you help? You could have avoided the entire situation safely. Tom paused his work. Where I come from, you help people in trouble. It is just what you do. But you risked your life for complete strangers. We are not even the same species. Does that matter? You needed help and I could provide it. The decision was easy. Kira found this attitude remarkable. Most galactic civilizations operated on complex systems of mutual benefit, formal alliances, and calculated risk assessment. The idea of helping someone simply because it was right seemed almost naive, yet had led to her rescue. Tell me about your world, she said. What is Earth like? Tom's expression grew thoughtful. Beautiful but challenging. We have many different environments, oceans, deserts, mountains, forests. Each one requires different survival skills. Growing up there teaches you to adapt quickly. Is that why humans are so resourceful? Partly, but it is also our history. We spent thousands of years surviving with limited technology. We learned to make tools from whatever materials we could find, to solve problems with creativity instead of advanced equipment. A distant rumbling sound interrupted their conversation. Tom stood up and pointed toward the northern horizon. There they are. A strange vehicle approached across the rocky terrain. It moved on wheels rather than anti-gravity systems with thick black smoke trailing from its rear. The machine looked primitive and noisy, yet it navigated the difficult landscape with ease. That is your transportation? Kira asked in wonder. Reliable and simple to repair? Tom said proudly. It has carried us thousands of kilometers without failing. The rover reached their location and stopped. 3 humans climbed out, carrying medical equipment and supplies. Kira watched them work together with seamless efficiency, treating Captain Vex and Lieutenant Zara with skill and confidence. Dr. Lisa, a woman with graying hair and kind eyes, examined Kira's injuries. The bandaging is excellent, she told Tom. Where did you learn field medicine? Boy Scout training and military service, Tom replied casually. Boy Scout training? Kira asked. Childhood education program. We teach survival skills, basic medical care, problem solving, that sort of thing. Kira was amazed again. You train your children in survival techniques? Of course. How else would they learn to handle emergencies? As the human team prepared to transport everyone to safety, Kira realized she was witnessing something unprecedented. These humans operated as a natural unit, sharing knowledge and resources without formal command structure. They solved problems instinctively and helped others without expecting reward. Everything her civilization believed about primitive species was wrong. Humans were not primitive. They were something far more valuable. They were practical. Princess Kira sat in the human rover as it moved steadily across the moon's surface toward their base camp. Captain Vex and Lieutenant Zara rested comfortably in the back, their injuries treated with surprisingly effective human medical techniques. Dr. Lisa monitored their vital signs using simple but reliable equipment. "Princess," Tom said from the driver's seat, "we should discuss what happens when your rescue ships arrive." "What do you mean?" "My people have been operating in this sector quietly for several months. We prefer to avoid attention from major galactic powers. Our presence here might cause complications." Kira considered this. "Why do you avoid attention?" Dr. Lisa answered from behind them. "Most advanced species see us as primitive curiosities at best, potential threats at worst. We have learned it is easier to conduct our research without interference." "Research into what?" "Everything," said Mike, the team's geologist. "Planetary formation, mineral composition, life-bearing potential. We are trying to understand how the galaxy works. But why does this require secrecy?" Tom navigated around a large boulder before replying. "Because when other species discover human colonies or research teams, they usually try to relocate us to safer areas or place us under protective custody. They mean well, but it limits our ability to explore and learn." Kira was shocked. "You have colonies? Research teams operating independently across the galaxy?" "Small ones," Dr. Lisa confirmed. "Humans are good at building sustainable communities with limited resources. We establish bases on worlds that other species consider too difficult or dangerous to inhabit." "How many?" "Maybe 50 or 60 active settlements plus exploration teams like ours. Nothing that would threaten established civilizations, just people trying to make lives for themselves among the stars." The conversation was interrupted by Tom's radio crackling to life. "Tom, this is base camp. We have multiple ships approaching from different vectors. Some are broadcasting Valdoran Imperial codes." Tom grabbed the microphone. "Understood. Are they taking aggressive postures?" "Negative. They appear to be search and rescue operations, but Tom, there are also 3 ships that do not match any known galactic registry. They are broadcasting on human frequencies." Kira leaned forward. "Human ships?" "Our survey vessel and 2 escort craft, Doctor," Lisa explained. "They must have detected the distress signals. Within an hour, they reached the human base camp." Kira marveled at the efficiency of the temporary settlement. Simple but functional buildings provided shelter and workspace, powered by solar collectors and chemical generators. Everything looked basic yet served its purpose perfectly. Captain Reed, the expedition leader, greeted them as they arrived. He was a tall man with weathered features and calm eyes. "Princess, we are honored to meet you. I apologize for the circumstances. Captain, your people have saved our lives. The honor is mine." Overhead, ships began descending from the sky. 3 sleek Valdoran rescue vessels landed with precision, their advanced engines barely disturbing the ground. Moments later, 3 much different ships approached. The human vessels looked rougher, built for function rather than elegance, but they landed with equal skill. Kira watched the crews emerge and interact. The Valdoran rescue team moved with formal efficiency, checking their equipment and establishing security perimeters. The human crews simply walked over and began offering assistance without ceremony. "Princess Kira," called Commander Talon as he approached from the Valdoran ships. "Thank the stars you are safe. The Emperor has been frantic with worry." "Commander, I am well thanks to these humans," Kira replied, gesturing toward Tom and his team. Commander Talon glanced at the humans with polite but dismissive interest. "Of course, Princess. We are grateful for their assistance. We can arrange proper transportation to compensate them for their trouble." "Compensation?" Tom stepped forward. Not necessary, Commander. We were glad to help. Nonetheless, primitive species deserve recognition for their service to the Empire, Talon said in a tone he probably intended as kind. Kira saw Tom's expression tighten slightly, but he remained polite. Captain Reed simply smiled and said, "We appreciate the thought, but helping others is its own reward." What happened next revealed everything Kira needed to understand about humans. As the Valdoran medical team took over treating Vex and Zara, the human doctors quietly offered suggestions based on their field experience. When the Valdoran engineers examined the crashed ship, human technicians pointed out damage patterns they had observed. At every turn, the humans provided assistance without seeking credit or recognition. Most remarkably, they solved problems that stumped the advanced Valdoran equipment. When the rescue ship's sensors could not penetrate the lingering dampening field to assess the full battle damage, the humans built a simple probe using basic components that functioned perfectly. "How did you make this work when our quantum sensors failed?" asked Lieutenant Vale, the Valdoran technical specialist. "The dampening field blocks quantum entanglement and energy resonance," explained Sarah, the human engineer. "But it does not affect basic electromagnetic radiation. We just built a simple radio telescope to gather data." Kira watched her people, gradually realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. These humans consistently solved problems that challenged their advanced technology, using methods so simple they seemed obvious in retrospect. Commander Talon approached Kira privately. "Princess, these humans are remarkable. Their techniques are crude but surprisingly effective. Commander, I need you to contact my father immediately. Tell him I wish to propose a formal diplomatic relationship with humanity." "A relationship?" "Princess, they are a primitive species with limited technological capability." Kira looked at Tom, who was helping Valdoran technicians repair their damaged communication array using parts from his makeshift radio. "Commander, I think we are the ones who have been primitive. We have been so focused on advanced technology that we forgot the importance of practical wisdom." "I do not understand." "These humans possess something we have lost, the ability to find simple solutions to complex problems. They adapt, improvise, and overcome challenges that stop our most sophisticated systems." Kira smiled. "The galaxy needs to discover what humanity truly offers." As rescue preparations continued, Kira approached Captain Reed. "Captain, would you be willing to accompany me to the Valdoran capital? I believe my father should meet representatives of your people." Reed considered this carefully. "Princess, that could change everything for humanity." "I hope so, Captain. The galaxy has been missing out on remarkable allies." Kira looked up at the stars and realized that her rescue had become something much more significant. The universe was about to discover that sometimes the most advanced civilization was the one that never forgot how to be human.